All right. So I've gotten some some questions. I want to kind of run through them real quick. Uh, so one of the questions I got was, because people ask, what are peptides? Peptides are little tiny amino acid chains that are basically like commands to a computer. It tells your body what to do, and then what to do with the things it has. Whether it's make more energy, whether it's burn fat, whether it's reduce inflammation, whatever it is. These are basically codes to tell the body what to do. People ask if they're dangerous. It depends on how you use them. They're tools. As we've seen this GLP-1s, if you use them right, they're fantastic. If you use them wrong, they're going to mess people up. So just make sure that you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing. If you're working with any type of GLP-1, whether it's semaglutide, Ozempic, tirzepatide, or retatrutide, you're going to have to do things. You're going to have to monitor your diet and exercise, and you're going to have to take supplementation for it to be healthy. If you guys are not getting offered supplementation specifically for how the body to increase body function, if you're not being told to eat protein or work out, you're not working with somebody who is going to keep you healthy. So keep that in mind, because again, you're telling the body to do something. You need to complete the set, complete the package, and give it the things it needs. Let's see, what was it? Oh, is there really a peptide that makes you tan? Yes, it's called melanotan 2. I've used it. It works. It's pretty cool. It's really nice. It actually helps. There's some research on it showing that it decreases sunburns and things like that. So guys who have bald heads and are super white like me, it's really beneficial to help keep the sunburning down. So I'm a big fan of that one. As far as growing muscle, we've had a lot of questions about growing taller and growing muscle with growth hormone stuff. Growth hormone stuff is phenomenal for healing and repair. That's basically what it does. So there is research that using peptides that increase your natural production of growth hormone can increase long bone height. So basically, it can make you taller. You got to take them every day. You got to eat again. You got to sleep. You got to do the whole thing. So the idea that I just take a peptide and everything is better is the same idea as, well, I just take steroids and everything's better. It's not how it works at all. It's one part of the equation. So there's a lot of people who are taking growth hormone peptides not getting any benefit out of them because they're not eating right, they're not exercising, they're not sleeping right. So they're like, well, these don't work. No, they work great. You're just doing 20% of the work, and so you're getting none of the results you expected. They are great for healing, though. You break a bone, you tear a ligament, they're fantastic. They work really, really well. So they can, the research does show they can make, people who still have open growth plates that are smaller, it can work and it can help you grow, but you got to do, it's a consistency thing. It's not a take it for 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months and you're there. You got to be on it. And again, you got to have all the other components with it. As far as, so I got a question that, can peptides fix diabetes? Let me answer this question very, very, very technically. Diabetes is kind of a classification that we give to a metabolic dysfunction where your body no longer can regulate glucose and you have too much sugar in your blood. It's technically, diabetes is actually sweet urine. You have so much sugar in your blood that it's pouring out of your urine, and so you have too much glucose in your urine. So that's really where it is. I liken this to being drunk. So if someone's always drunk, and when they wake up, they start drinking vodka, and they drink vodka all day long, they wake up the next morning, they start drinking vodka, they're always drunk, and people are like, I don't know how to stop being drunk. And you're like, well, stop drinking alcohol, and you won't be drunk. Same idea. So if we take away the alcohol, the body cycles everything out, and you're no longer drunk. If you reduce the insulin resistance, which is what peptides help to do, they help to balance insulin resistance and metabolic function. If you reduce the insulin resistance, over time, your body will heal, your body will be able to regulate glucose again, and you will no longer be classified as being diabetic. Don't think of diabetic as a disease, think of diabetes as a metabolic state that you've allowed your body to kind of progress into. This is type 2 diabetes. So in that case, the peptides can help you no longer become insulin resistant. They can radically increase insulin sensitivity, bring your glucose back into range, and then you will no longer be technically in a state that is diabetic. If that helps answer that question legally, that's the answer to that question. And then that ties into dementia, because one of the major things we see with dementia is, again, your brain communicates with insulin. It makes insulin inside your brain and communicates all over your brain. If your brain is insulin resistant, therefore it's not listening to insulin anymore, it also doesn't work very well. We call it dementia, Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, neurodegenerative disease, things like that. So yeah, if it's helping metabolic function and reducing insulin resistance, thus improving insulin sensitivity, it can also help change the metabolic state that we call dementia. So, and it's very important that we put it into those terms, because they're saying anything that's not a pharmaceutical that doesn't have research can treat or cure a disease is illegal. Only pharmaceutical companies can say that stuff with or without research. So that's for some of those big ones. The idea that we can just use peptides and that's all we have to worry about isn't accurate at all. I know a lot of guys are out there saying, just take this or just do that and everything's better. They're small pieces of a puzzle. They might be the piece that is lacking. For instance, people go to the gym and they go to the gym and they work real hard. They get their sleep in, and they're eating pretty well, but they're not, getting where they want to go. That's a hormonal problem. They don't have enough testosterone, or they don't have enough growth hormone, or whatever. Adding those things in to that equation makes it work. So it's kind of like the baking the cake. If you don't have any eggs, you can't make cake. So, you can have all the other ingredients, but without the eggs, you can't make the cake. And because of the toxins in our food, water, and air, one of the hardest things for our body to do is regulate itself, because all these chemicals that are in food, water, air are designed to take over your system and make it do something different. And so that's kind of where the issue is. And so coming back in and replacing the testosterone levels, replacing the growth hormone, or giving your body the signal to use fat as a fuel source, that's how these things work. So that's the beauty of things like retatrutide, where it finally goes, hey, calm down on the sugar stuff, decrease the inflammation, and start using the fat as your fuel source. There you go. So that's how some of those things work. Like I told you, they tell the body what to do. So if you're trying to come up with that last little piece, this is going to be great. If you're not doing any of the other things, these will help, but you're not going to get the results that you're actually looking for and you're actually wanting. Again, like one of the things I always like to tell people, if you start using Retta and you're like, oh, this is going to be great, you're going to lose weight. If you use it right, you're definitely going to lose some weight. Just remember, if you haven't been building the muscle underneath, men and women, you're not going to have it there when the fat goes away. So we've talked to a lot of women who don't ever work out, and they're like, well, now I don't have an ass. My ass is gone. Well, you never had an ass. You had a bunch of fat on your butt, and the fat went away, and it showed it flat, because you don't do squats. You don't do hip thrusts. You don't do kickbacks. You don't do SLRs. You don't do the things to build the muscle that is around your butt. And so, but your butt, it's a place where we hold a lot of fat. So those are some of the other things to kind of keep in mind. I've talked to a lot of people who, after they've used Retta, they're very happy with the fat loss. They're very happy with the way they feel, because once you get that inflammation down, you feel amazing. Half these people, like I've talked to, who are no longer classified as diabetic, and they feel amazing, but they're like, well, now I'm just tiny, and like, I just look like a skeleton. I look weak. And I'm like, well, how often do you work out? I've never worked out. Okay, there you go. So these are some of the things you're going to keep in mind when you're doing these things. Is we've been given a very, very, very poor understanding of how the body works, and so that's one of those things. Like I'm actually teaching. I'm working right now to start teaching hormone therapy and peptide therapy to med spas and doctors, because they've lost the metabolic piece. A lot of these guys are amazing with pharmaceuticals, but they haven't been taught what they do and how they do it. And so when you hand them peptides, they're like, where do we use these? What do we use this to treat? And you start explaining metabolic processes to them. They're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So that's kind of where some of this stuff is. That's why a lot of the best information you're going to get are from guys who are using them, guys who are really into them and that are doing the research. Very few of this information is going to come from the medical field, and some of it's just being flat wrong. Like there's a LSU doc who was talking about that. You have to have a fume hood to mix peptides, or else it's extremely dangerous and sterile. That's not accurate in any way, shape, or form. that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Putting water into a vial is going to be toxic and bad for you if you don't have a fume hood, a $250,000 fume hood. That's not a thing. So, but anyway, if you guys keep sending your questions, a lot of these things I just answer in emails and I answer back. When I get a whole bunch of the same ones, I'll come and do these sort of things. But if you guys have questions, hit us up, questions@chalmerswellness.com or pillarswellness.com, chalmerswellness.com. Jump on there and get a consult. We'll talk to you guys about them and help you figure out the best way to do it for you. If you guys have any questions, hit us up. Thanks for your time. Have a fantastic day.